Hi everyone, hope you enjoyed them Blitz games I've been recording, and I hope you've been enjoying the Epic Chess Cafe. But for now it's back to my over the board adventures. So after the a bit of a revival at Manchester with getting 50% despite losing the points, it was on to the next tournament a couple of weeks later at Bradford. So I turned up on Friday night, hoping to get some points back, and it's the under 170 section like at Leyland again. So I was expecting to get smashed up, especially seeing as in the previous year I got 1 out of 5 in the minor, which is kind of bad. So I didn't have any hopes for this tournament, to be honest. And I got a tough round 1 draw playing Dave Patrick as black, who is 164. Also, he had won. He got joint first at Leyland a few weeks ago, which I got smashed up at, as we all know from my videos. So a nice easy round 1, and to make matters worse, I am black. Although I do seem to be better as black, but I expected to get smashed up pretty brutal in this game. And well, let's see what happens then. So he was white, and as I expected, he tried to hack me up with e4. I played the French. Best chance maybe of getting a draw. Knight f3, d5, and knight c3. Which is known as like some positional line against the French, where you just develop both your knights, and then eventually after knight f6. By the way, I got smashed up in 12 moves or 13 moves by playing d4 in this position, so I thought, right, I'll play knight f6, and after e5, knight fd7, d4, c5, attacking the pawn chain at its base. The idea in this line now is that white takes, and he gives up d4, but is going to overprotect e5 using Nimzovich's theory of overprotection. By the way, this is one of them lines where white can't really expect much of an advantage, if any, but he will get good pieces to good squares, and he can face the future with confidence, and also you've got the chance to outplay your opponent without messing up in like loads of theory. So it's a nice line. Now the best move is knight c6 rather than taking back straight away, putting 2 pieces on e5, forcing white to commit his bishop to f4, and now he's take the pawn with a developing move. And after bishop d3, this sets a little trap, as a bit of a trap as well, where if black's careless and just routinely castles, you sack on h7, and after king takes h7, knight g5 check, and if king g6 is best, anything else allows mate, and then queen d3 check, f5, if king h5 then check, and mate. If king h6 then this is immediately mate, and if f5 best, then after queen g3, white's threatening all sorts of discoveries like knight takes e6 check, and black is already in big trouble and is facing a crushing attack, and all his pieces can't defend his king, and black's in just huge trouble there. So that's a trap to watch out for in this opening. The theory move, which I didn't know at the time, is to play f6, and white cannot keep his stranglehold on e5, so he gives it up with e takes f6, and after knight takes f6, the battle lines are clear. Black's got 2 centre pawns to white 0, but there's a massive hole on e5, and the e6 pawn is also backward, and also because the pawn can't move, black's going to have trouble activating the light squared bishop, which is a problem in the French. But black's got an F file for his rook once he castles short, and he can face future with confidence. I think he's already equal here. But then again, it's still a good line for white to play this, due to it's easy to play. You get your pieces to good squares, you're not going to fall into any traps, etc. And both sides can be happy with their opening, I think, with this. As long as it doesn't get hacked up on the F file, white doesn't. Which is of course possible. But anyway, I played move a6, which isn't a bad move. I'm not sure. Put in the comments what you think of this move. I think it's a book move. It might be a novelty. It should be interesting, but I'm not sure if it's a good novelty. I just wanted to give a retreat square for the bishop to a7. I also wanted to maybe put a queenside expansion with b5. Not sure if that's a good idea or not, but it's a plan. It's better to have a bad plan than no plan at all. And he now castles. Now I played knight b4, going after his light squared bishop. an interesting move is h6, which stops in like a Greek gift, so maybe castling can be played, but it also makes f6 not that good, because then g6 is a massive hole for a knight or a bishop, so maybe that's not too great, but Engines liked it. So after knight b4, he plays the best decision, which is to let his bishop drop, because he gets a developing move for his queen, and now the fun really does start. Now a safe move in this position would be queen c7, putting some pressure on e5, and after rook f1 overprotecting it. Despite a6 maybe being a bit dodgy, black's almost equal, if not fully equal here, with active pieces except the c8 bishop, and maybe some pressure against e5, because at f6 if takes, then it's pinned, the bishop's like on pre on f4. So black can be reasonably happy. But anyway, I got aggressive against a 164 and played b5, trying to get the initiative on queen's side. However, I noticed my rooks potentially. I noticed I'm massively behind in development. I played 2 pawn moves that white hasn't, and to win the bishop I also had to give up a tempo. And you notice that my rook side, bishop, queen, no, I've only got 2 pieces like developed, while whites are all fully mobilised. Except bringing the rooks in, and this caused for drastic action potentially. Now first of all, a safe option for white would be b4, and after bishop e7, knight d4, queen b6, and rook fe1, with maybe a slightly better position for white if not equal, but this is a safe option. However, my opponent lashes out with knight takes d5 exclamation mark question mark, because he feels that I've made too many pawn moves, so I'm going to punish you for your lack of development, and plus this piece sack is actually quite sound, and black has to find several like only moves not to lose quickly he's going to have to do, you see, and because my grid's 1-4-1 not 2-4-1, then that's going to be really tough for me. And I was shocked by it, I didn't see it coming at all, and I was like, it's going to be another Friday night massacre. This go along with the 16 move loss at Manchester, because now my rook's going to be forced to a7, he's going to go e6, and all sorts of nasties are going to happen. I spent a good 25 minutes on this move, deciding whether I should just accept I've lost an important centre pawn and try and grovel the pawn down, or should I accept the piece sack, which is the critical test, and the only viable option actually. Just letting that pawn drop suicide. It might just be best to lose quickly, to be honest. And he only spent a couple of moves on this, so I was wondering, is this a common theme in this opening? Does anyone know, like sacking a piece on 2 pawns and d5? So it was played quickly, unless he just wanted to hack me up as quick as possible because he could get on, because it's quite a local congress to him this. So anyway, knight takes d5 comes. I had to think for 25 minutes and come to the conclusion that I can just about maybe survive, but I couldn't find a clear route to survival. The engine's evaluation, of course, well, it actually starts off at nearly point to black, but as they think for a bit, it starts to get equal, even slightly advantageous to white. So this is a sound piece that I'm facing, even though it's not decisive, and only really should give equality. But it's a very good practical try, because a 1-4-1 grade's likely to mess up, especially one as bad as me, because I'm 23 points behind in grading, so I'm likely to get outplayed, but I'm even further behind in my opinion, where I was playing up to this game. So anyway, on with it. So I accept with e takes d5, and after queen takes d5, you see I highlighted my rook as being on pre in a few moves ago. If we just go back, you see when I went b5, the rook's on pre because the bishop's not been developed yet, and we see that loose pieces lose games. Because now after knight takes, pawn takes, queen takes becomes attractive because the rook's on pre. It has to move, and then you got e6 ripping open lines towards the black king. And this is a good find by him. This shows his strength and why he got 5 out of 6 at Leyland compared to me losing nearly all my games and playing like a complete wally. So anyway, he plays e6. There's another move I had to look at, which was knight g5. So that's trying to play e6 with more force, but the problem is it lets me castle. However, now would come the move knight takes f7, continue with the in for a penny, in for a pound policy. And after rook takes f7, e6, forking my rook and my knight. Rook takes f4, of course loses to e7 check, with white's going to be 2 queens up all of a sudden. And now the best move is queen f8, and after e takes f7 check, queen takes f7. An interesting position as arose. White has got a slight material advantage all of a sudden because he's sat the piece for 2 pawns, and I've had to give the exchange up. So I've got a bishop and knight against a rook and 2 pawns. So white's got 7 against my 6, but black's got good compensation because first of all he's got the initiative because white's bishop's on 3, and black's bad bishop is also really good. Like bishop b7 is going to come with tempo, and in fact white has to be careful not to suck some here to a rapid counter attack. In fact, and black's king safe all of a sudden. And I'd be happy with this position as black, to be honest, even if the engines think it's slightly better for white. But they do think black has got a comp. And black could get some dangerous kingside pressure coming up. And anyway, if we go back. Oh, and also white also could swap the queens off here, but I don't think the endgames are that amazing for white. Because them pieces are going to be too active. They're going to start white's pawns running too far. And this position will probably lead to a draw, but there's chances of both sides. It's very dynamic. Back to game. He played the best move, I think, with e6, and because of the threats of the knight and e takes f7 check, and also because the knight's protecting the bishop, I'm forced to take it, which opens a load of space up towards my king. Like, how many options is for white now? And after queen takes e6 check, queen e7, and now he plays a good move, which is queen b3, which avoids the exchange of queens, which would be better for me because I'm up material. Because when you're up material, it's best to trade down pieces to simplify the position and liquidate any initiative your opponent may have. But queen b3 retreats, and I can't castle because his queen's cutting off the g8 square. And next the rook's going to come to the e line, winning my queen, which would end the game rather unfortunately. And I thought here, went for a walk, and I was thinking, I was massively behind clock as well, because I was having to think. Like, he was playing moves quite quickly, logical moves, and I was like having to think all the time and getting like 45 minutes behind. I must have been at some point, and I thought I'm just gonna get hacked here completely. All his pieces like going to be around my king soon. There's nothing I can do. But I thought it is the French, and the French is notorious for like amazing defensive resources out of nowhere, as you're going to see in many GM games. And I decided I can hang on with knight f8. The idea point of this move is that if a rook checks me, I'll cover the e6 square. And I'm also, when it comes to e6, I'm blocking the white queen out so I can castle. And then I'd be a piece up for 2 pawns. Because the thing is, all my pieces are actually really active, or they have the potential to be. My only problem is that my king's in a bit of a crossfire. If I can consolidate and castle, then I'm a piece up for 2 pawns with active pieces. There's no like positional compensation for white then. Nearly all white's compensation in this position is based on destroying the centre I had and blasting lines open to my king. If my king escapes without any material losses, I'm going to be winning. But can I do that? That's the question. Especially a weak defensive player like me. I don't think knight f8 is best though. Queen f7 seems to be better, challenging the white queen. And the best actually is to swap the queens off, but get a bit of initiative in return with this continuation. Check. Knight e6 with some initiative in return for the piece and 2 pawns as well. Because black's pieces are a bit dodgy. And I won't mind, it won't be that brilliant being white in this position. Probably I'd still rather be black, but white has got the most fun in this position, and black's king is a bit dangerously exposed. But queen f7 is given as better. Because after knight f8, my opponent goes bishop g5, but I think the knight should have gone that square. After knight g5, the best move given is the move queen f6, a calm move in the face of all the mayhem. The point being is to clear the e7 square for the rook to come in when I get checked on e1, which is the best move. And after rook e7, queen d5 is a strong move, centralising the queen and attacking my c5 bishop. However, now comes a tactical sequence with bishop takes f2 check, king takes f2, queen takes f4, king g1, queen back to f6, and now rook takes, queen takes, check, king d8. And I think white can actually have a draw by perpetual here, perhaps. It's also dangerous for black to continue. And I think this is probably the best play in the sacrifice from both sides, this position, which looks like being a draw by perpetual. So my conclusion of this sacrifice is that it was sounding that white's play, although white's giving up a piece for 2 pawns, but he's not worse than his position. And black has to find loads of like nearly moves just to hang on, which I managed to. And you know, it'll end up in a draw. White can say he's had a good try and has had all the fun in this game. Or black's just been defending all the time. And the piece sack was a good practical bet, and hats off to him for finding it. However, he hasn't quite followed it up correctly with bishop g5. Because now my queen comes to f7 challenging his queen, and after he checks me with a rook, I play the only move knight e6. Because bishop e6 loses to a fork with queen d5. Because he's threatening queen d8 mate and also the c5 bishop. And they both can't be protected. In fact, sorry, I just need to check something actually, I didn't check. So if the bishop goes there, what's the punishment? I'm looking something really obvious here. It's like a mate or something. Well, the punishment is queen c6 check. He has to block with it's 7-8 point advantage. He has to block with the rook, and then we've got the 95 actually isn't quite killing. Rook ad1's just killing. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, so you should have to check that. I've got to check it in my prep. So queen d5, I'm sure you can say he's just killing on the spot. So a knight e6, another only move. But now all of a sudden things are looking quite rosy. I'm threatening to castle. I've got pressure on, and my castle have pressure on the f-file. On his f2 point's already been pressured by my c5 bishop. And also, if my knight isn't pinned, I'm threatening his bishop. And then my bishop can also come to b7, pressuring f3. And then my rook can swing across. I won't be passive, I'll be active, and I'll be up material. What more do I want? And I'll have a real chance of beating a 164 grade, which I've never beaten a 160 plus before. And in fact, it completely misses. Instead, after the game, I could castle and goes rook ad1 question mark. The only move to keep up the initiative is the in for a penny, in for a pound, because usually when you sacrifice a piece, you have to be prepared to sacrifice even like throw more wood on the fire to keep the attack burning. This is an example of it. You should have played rook takes e6 check, sacking in exchange, and after bishop takes e6, rook e1. And now some material is going to have to be given back. And black has two viable options. One is to castle, just giving the piece back without a fight. And after queen takes e6, queen takes, rook d7. The end game is probably about equal. White's got a knight and 2 pawns for the exchange, so it's equal material. The two pieces against against black's bishop are quite useful. And he's also got extra pawns. But black's rooks are, can potentially cause some damage, but chances are about dynamically equal, but maybe slightly better for black. So this is would be like black's winning attempts. Like I think white's got to fight more for a draw in this position, but there's chances for both sides. And the engines back me up on that. Another option instead of castling is rook e7. And then the only move for white that isn't a decisive advantage for black actually is queen c3. And then the best is rook c7 and then going back to b3, and then if black can now castle, he can, allowing the previous variation where he can maybe try for winning the endgame, or he can just allow draw by repetition with rook e7, queen c3, etc. So my conclusion of the piece set, like I said, is that it was pretty sound, and I had to find all these because I thought it was quite unsound after the game, but it's a strongness. But now he's not followed up correctly with rook ad1, which looks strong, but again I can just castle. And now I thought, I've survived the onslaught, and I even thought during the game, if I can survive this onslaught, maybe I can even try and win the game, amazingly enough, even though he's trying to hack me up and he's much higher graded. Well, it is possible. And in fact, he played that, it's basically the only move to stay in the game now, because I've got this pressure all of a sudden. So he played bishop e3, preserving the bishop, challenging my strong bishops to pressure on f2, disintegrates. And I decided to take, and after queen takes, I move my rook to e7, and I consolidated the extra material, piece up 2 pawns. I've got strong pressure on the E and F files. His knight's can't move, he's like knight and queen going to pin down to f2. Bishop's going to come to b7, adding more pressure to the f3 knight. My king's safe all of a sudden. I mean, look how it was a few moves ago, he's caught in a crossfire in the centre, but It's guarded by 2 pawns and all the pieces are around it. White's attack's completely dead and black's going to take over the initiative, I hope. But I was still worried, of course. The best move White's best try is rook d6, trying to keep active. And after rook f8, knight e5, queen f4 though, and black hasn't got any problems. And he's over a point and a half up according to my analytical assistant. He plays queen b6, and now his queen's a bit offside because he's not careful. Black's going to onslaught the king side with all these heavy pieces bearing down. I played knight f4, which is a very nice square where the only way to kick it away is g3, but that loses to knight h3 check, queen takes f3. So it's effectively an outpost. And it's just, and I've got this extra bishop as well. I mean, once I can develop this extra bishop into game, White can almost resign, to be honest. And I was so happy in my position at this point, but I was just worried. I was so worried that I'm gonna mess this up. Because he is, at the end of the day, I'm playing something a lot higher graded. And the best move here is queen g6. It's actually a fork as well, because rook takes f3 and the c2 pawn protected. And because White's not got any initiative anymore, I can get away with pawn grabbing and I could probably win all White's queen side and be like just a full piece up and winning. But I played knight f4, which is good as well. And White played rook takes e7. Interesting is rook d8, trying to take advantage of the back rank. And there's some interesting stuff here to look at. First option is to take on e1 with check, and after knight takes e1, queen e7 hits both the rook and the knight, forcing rook takes f8, king takes f8, knight f3, and bishop b7. The end result was that black's still a piece up for 2 pawns, and there's an immediate threat of knight takes g2 followed by queen g5 check, because the knight would be pinned, and then bishop takes f3, win another pawn. And White's hasn't got any compensation here. It's just a piece down with 2 pawns, and if anything, black's got the activity. Because the knight can't move due to queen e1 mate as well. So that'd be winning. Another winning option after rook d8 is knight e2 check, with some very interesting tactics, because after king f1, you can sack the queen on f3. Because if g takes h3, then the game ends straight away with bishop h3 mate. Very nice, beautiful mate there. So White has to throw in the division dug, rook takes f8 check, and if black is careless and takes with the king, then that loses to queen d8 check, where the queen will sacrifice itself for the rook with check, and then the black queen will fall on. White then will be winning all of a sudden. So now it's a queen takes f8 has to be played, and after knight rook takes c2, rook takes, king takes, safety move h6, and black's a bishop up for 2 pawns, and it's a very good bishop as well. And there might be a few technical difficulties, but black should be winning this, and I should be winning it as well, even if it's high rated. Also, White's king's exposed. Anyway, back to the game. So rook takes e7 was played instead. So another pair of rooks come off, making the win closer, but now we can play rook e1 with tempo. And now I played queen f7, which is actually a mistake. Because I spent all this time on working out sacrifice. It was on move 24, and the time control was an hour and 45 minutes for 42 moves, and then back 15 for rest at game. I decided that I might get involved in a long game where I have to win a piece up for 2 pawns or something, or I might not even make the move 42 because I had 18 moves left now. I had about 15 minutes. Because I spent all that time working on the complications having that sacrifice, which although I successfully did and got this amazing position as a reward, helped by a couple of mistakes from him, I didn't want to lose on time or make horrible blunders, so I decided to keep things simple and play queen f7, playing queen h5, very logical moves there, can easy to see in a few seconds. I mean, the quick win's queen d7. The point being, I thought it's counterintuitive blocking the bishop in, and putting a queen where it can easily be harassed by knight e5. I mean, it can f7 as well, but I was going to come to h5, but the problem is there's an immediate threat of queen g4, almost ending the game right away, and if knight e5, then queen d2, forking the rook and pawn, and all White's queen side just falls apart, all the pawns going to drop off, and White will lose all his material compensation for the piece, and this is crushing this, and just giving variations of over 4 points. So I played queen f7, and now if knight e5, I'd planned queen h5, and after king h1, something like queen f5, and black's active pieces and his material up. He plays queen e3, bringing the queen back to defence where it may be needed. And all of a sudden, white's best chance maybe is to get an endgame piece down for 2 pawns and hope he can outplay, because I was junior at the time, so hopefully he can outplay junior and get a draw. So he's going all defensive. I finally get my bishop into the game in a strong diagonal, but I was too concerned of this and missed queen g6. The best defence is g3, but this loosens up the f3 knight because every pawn move creates a weakness, and now h3 and f3 are drastically weakened. So I play bishop b7 now after I provoke this weakness, and now knight h3 is coming, winning f3 knight, and after knight e5 I've check, king f1 and a queen takes c2 with threats on f2 and also winning the pawn, probably forcing resigns almost. This is. It's weird how ironic how the bishop's really bad in the French, but this piece sacrifice, which is meant to give white like a crushing victory really quickly, has opened up this bishop's diagonal. Look how powerful it is. That's like the best piece on the board in my opinion. It's just like a dream bishop. Now he comes into e5, and I played queen h5 keeping it simple. As for there's actually a tactical sequence which I didn't have time to look at, which I may have looked at with more time, because you notice that I'm attacking the g2 pawn twice, and even though my queen's on pre, when I take on g2 with the knight, I'm on this queen. So, of course, knight takes g2 would have to be calculated. And after knight takes f7, knight takes e3. White can actually make things difficult here with the efficient zug knight h6 check, which when I take it back, I've got awful double isolated pawns, and after rook takes e3, I'm a bishop up for a pawn up in the same game, but there might be one or two technical difficulties due to the fractured pawn structure. And white's is like white's got a much better pawn structure. But then again, I should be winning this position against any strength player, even a GM. But there might be a couple of difficulties there. I think my option might have been better with queen h5. However, knight takes g2 turns out to be better because after f3, which wasn't played, blunting my bishop, black actually doesn't have anything immediately decisive in this position. Black's a piece up for 2 pawns with slightly better position, but there's nothing decisive, and white can put up some resistance here. The advantage is only a minus 1.6. However, my opponent played the move g4, and this is actually his longest think in the game by a mile. Like, he'd been playing quite fast, but he spent 15-20 minutes on this move, and I'm not sure because it weakens a lot of key squares. Maybe he wanted to add some dreams of going g5, g6, g takes h7, h equals queen at some point, but I can't see him coming. He attacks the queen, but it just leaves so many weaknesses, and this knight's now permanent f4. He can't never got rid of it. It's just a complete thorn in white side. And in fact, to make this move even worse, there is actually several, not one, several forced wins for black, and I didn't play one of them. So I could have sealed the win over 164 with, well, there's a very beautiful move, queen takes e5, which just wins another piece, because the queen's immune due to knight h3 check, king h1, rook takes f2 mate. So I'd be 2 pieces up, then for 2 pawns, that's resigns. The most crushing and clinical is queen h4, which is 11 pawns. And I don't really need to give any variations here. I mean, look at this, all this pressure. It's just an absolute massacre. There's bishop point right through white's king. There's pressure on f2, like knight h3 check is going to lead to mate. With like rook takes f2. There's just like no defense for white. I think the best way is probably to give the queen up for the knight and f4, to be honest. Because it's just that absolute crushing. So that'd be resigns as well. The move I played, queen h3, isn't quite resigns. It sets a nice trap where if the queen's come, it looks like the queen's going to come off. But well, first of all, in this position, there is one move for white to avoid mate. At least a -4 advantage for black, so it's still lost, but it puts up resistance. And the move is queen g3. That's the only move to actually avoid mate in the whole position, because black's threatening to take the queens off and then play knight h3 and rook takes f2 mate. So queen g3 keeps the tension, and after queen takes g3, h takes g3, check, h2, knight takes f2. This is easily winning for black. White's only got one pawn for piece. Black's pieces are all right around white's king, and white's also pawns got the worst pawn structure. And this is crushing this. There shouldn't be any technical difficulties in this, even at our level. But my opponent hands me my first ever win over 160 plus with queen takes h3, knight takes h3 check, and I think he'd overlooked that my knight and rook are both on his f2 pawn, so he just goes king f1, only move, and I conclude the game with rook takes f2 checkmate. The final position, he let me play it as well. And it's actually only a 29 move win that as well, to make it more impressive. And what a beautiful final position. And this gave me as many points after one round of the Bradford Congress in 2011 as I got in the whole of the 2010, a section lower. And what an epic game. But I just couldn't believe after the game that I'd been like getting hacked to shreds. I was in the opening, terrible piece sack that I'd not even seen at all, completely demoralised, thinking I was going to get smashed again. And all of a sudden, with a bit of cool calculation, I turn it all around, and he makes a mistake to help me. But even then, with my strong defence, I'd still got equality and probably a draw, which has still been a really good result as black gets high rated by this much. But I managed to turn it round and even then get some activity, build up my position. I missed a couple of quick wins, which can be a criticism of me, but I managed to force through the victory in the end, and I just couldn't believe it. And it's just beating someone this strong. I don't usually play players this strong this year. I've been getting a lot of like 140 and lower, but if I can play like this against 160s more often, I'm forced to be reckoned with in the future. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video and this very exciting game. I'll do videos on my other rounds coming up soon, see how I fared in the other games. And for now, please visit the Epic Chess Cafe on Chess Cube. It's being regarded as the best cafe, and we've got players like Mr. Unstoppable come and Speed Demon for you, like very strong players, showing its immense prestige and popularity. But anyway, that's enough waffle for now, and I hope you took something from this game and how to defend amazingly. Please leave any comments and thoughts. Thanks very much.